Hey everyone, this is an introduction for my video series on muscular hypertrophy. We'll be doing a series of 10 different videos for my internship at the University of Wisconsin-La Crosse. And the main topic is going to be muscular hypertrophy. So we'll look at different things for training techniques, methods of recovery, nutrition, that kind of thing. It'll be a total of 10 videos, about 10 minutes in length for each one, looking at different studies as well to support the things that I'm doing in the gym. And each video will be a little bit different. Here we go.
All right, everybody. So this week we're going to be talking about nutrient timing, and the first thing we're going to be doing is looking at this nutrient timing study and post-exercise anabolic window. The idea is that consuming protein, different kinds of foods after workout might help increase recovery, increase muscle hypertrophy, and that's our focus for these 10 videos. So this one says in the abstract, theoretically, consuming the proper ratio of nutrients during this time not only initiates the rebuilding of damaged muscle tissue and restoration of energy reserves, but it does so in a super compensated fashion that enhances both body comp and exercise performance. Body composition being amount of muscle on your body compared to fat, and exercise performance being either strength or hypertrophy. They also say this anabolic window of opportunity. Time exists after training to optimize training-related muscular adaptations. Again, that just means strength, or in our focus, it means muscle hypertrophy or growth. It goes on to say, not only is nutrient timing research open to question in terms of applicability, but recent evidence has directly challenged the classical view of the relevance of post-exercise nutritional intake with respect to anabolism, which means building, basically, in layman's terms. So they set their goals out to be reviewing the existing literature on the effects of nutrient timing with respect to post-exercise muscular adaptations, and their second, to draw relevant conclusions that allow practical, evidence-based nutritional recommendations to be made for maximizing the anabolic response to exercise. The study goes on throughout the introduction, a discussion of glycogen repletion. Glycogen repletion being during a person's workout, the athlete's workout, glycogen is used for performance, ATP production, as it says, and they go on more in detail as well, and they talk about different findings for glycogen repletion. The idea here being that glycogen repletion during a workout, so using all of your glycogen, will, in a sense, create the need for the replenishment of glycogen and protein so that your muscles can recover. They go on for protein synthesis to talk about that. And then down here, they focus on muscle hypertrophy, and that's our focus. So I'll read a little bit of it for you, and then I'll talk about it. So it says, a number of studies have directly investigated the long-term hypertrophic effects of post-exercise protein consumptions. The results of these trials are curiously conflicting, seemingly because of varied study design and methodology. Moreover, a majority of studies employed both pre- and post-workout supplementation, making it impossible to tease out the impact of consuming nutrients after exercise. That kind of just means that studies are different. studies don't use the same bases for their criteria. One study, for instance, might use lots of carbohydrates post-workout for athletes. Other studies might use ratios of carbohydrates to proteins. And so it's hard to compare different studies because they're not doing the same things. They go further down here to the discussion, and they talk about all the discussions of the previous studies that I didn't directly mention, but it reads, this inevitably begs the question of how pre-exercise nutrition might influence the urgency or effectiveness of post-exercise nutrition, since not everyone engages in fasted training. Fasted training being training that you haven't eaten before, basically. In practice, it is common for those with the primary goal of increasing muscular size and or strength to make a concerted effort to consume pre-exercise meal within 1 to 2 hours prior to the bout in an attempt to maximize training performance. So, this is kind of saying pre-exercise meals, consuming carbs and proteins mostly before workouts, has an impact on training. And this might make the studies that have looked at post-exercise nutrition differ a little bit. It goes on to say a little bit further down here, these data indicate that even minimal to moderate pre-exercise EAA, or essential amino acids, or high-quality protein taken immediately before resistance training is capable of sustaining amino acid delivery into the post-exercise period. Given this scenario, immediate post-exercise protein dosing for the aim of mitigating catabolism, meaning breakdown, seems redundant. The next scheduled protein-rich meal, whether it occurs immediately 1 to 2 hours post-exercise, is likely sufficient for maximizing recovery and anabolism, again, building. So that says, in summary, that a post-workout meal 1 to 2 hours after exercise is sufficient for maximizing recovery and anabolism, or building, or muscle hypertrophy. So overall, what does this study tell us? Or I guess, what does this meta-analysis tell us? It tells us that there's great disagreement among different studies. We'll look at, in the next article, a study that supports the theory of utilizing post-exercise nutrition to maximize muscle hypertrophy, and then I'll go and just talk about some practical applications for everyone here. All right, guys, so now we're looking at another meta-analysis done by Brad Schoenfeld and some other authors, the Journal of International Society of Sports Nutrition from 2013. It's titled The Effect of Protein Timing on Muscle Strength and Hypertrophy. And it goes pretty in depth into a lot of different studies on the impact of nutrient timing before and or after training. In the abstract, it goes over how protein timing is a popular strategy in order to optimize the response to exercise. It involves consuming protein in and around training sessions to facilitate muscular repair and remodeling. So again, in our case, is muscle hypertrophy, muscle growth. They say at the end of this beginning that it says, these results refute the commonly held belief that the timing of protein intake in and around a training session is critical to muscular adaptations, and indicate that consuming adequate protein in combination with resistance exercise is the key factor for maximizing muscle protein accretion. So the last one we looked at was also done by Brad Schoenfeld. There was another meta-analysis, I believe from the same year. Basically, what this article is telling us is that it isn't so important when, like, it's not so important that you consume protein 30 minutes after training, or protein and carbs an hour after training. It's arguing, based on many studies, that taking in adequate macronutrients pre, post, or any time during the day, just in general, is going to be the key factor in muscle growth, exercise, performance, no matter age, gender, etc. Again, I encourage everyone to go and actually read the study, because it goes into coding of studies, calculation of effect size, statistical analysis of the studies, a lot of things that I don't have the time to talk about in this video, but I will go over a little bit of the results. So they say for muscle hypertrophy, it reads, after the model reduction procedure, total protein intake, study duration, and blinding remained as significant covarieties. Basically meaning that total protein intake is more important than the timing of the protein. So if you're going to train and your protein intake is insufficient, then your training isn't going to be as effective as you need it to be. It's overall diet that will cause exercise performance gains, muscular gains, and hypertrophy gains, not necessarily needing to eat exactly 30 minutes or an hour after your workout. The discussion portion of this article reads, perceived hypertrophic benefits seen in timing studies appeared to be the result of an increased consumption of protein as opposed to temporal factors. In our reduced model, the amount of protein consumed was highly and significantly associated with hypertrophic gains. In fact, the reduced model revealed that total protein intake was by far the most important predictor of hypertrophy. While there is undoubtedly an upper threshold to this correlation, these findings underscore the importance of consuming higher amounts of protein when the goal is to maximize exercise-induced increases in muscle mass. Conversely, total protein intake did not have an impact on strength outcomes, and ultimately was factored out during the model reduction process. So again, just repeating the main idea of this video to say that protein intake overall during the day, no matter if it's before the workout or post workout, overall protein intake is going to be the key determinant of muscle hypertrophy, and it doesn't matter as much when that protein is taken in. Now, a lot of people like to argue or will prefer to have a pre-workout meal, and this can be beneficial, meaning consumption of carbohydrates pre-workout for a strength athlete or someone who's looking to increase muscle size can be beneficial, just because carbohydrate or glycogen consumption can help performance in the gym. So it can help you work out harder, train harder, and those factors will definitely help muscle hypertrophy in the long run for sure. But this study is just saying that overall protein intake is the most important factor when trying to increase exercise performance for strength and growth for muscles. So if you're not consuming enough protein, you're not going to recover well enough. You're not going to gain the muscle that you're looking for when you're putting that work in the gym. And so that's the main idea, is to make sure, based on your body weight, that you're consuming enough protein. And they do give some recommendations for RDA, recommended daily allowance of protein. Let's see. They say the recommended dietary allowance for protein is 0.8 grams per kilogram per day. However, these values are based on the needs of sedentary individuals and are intended to represent a level of intake necessary to replace losses and hence avert deficiency. This just means that this recommendation is great for someone who sits around all day and doesn't go to the gym. An athlete that is training hard almost every day, they say there is some evidence to that protein requirements actually decrease slightly. There is some evidence that protein requirements actually decrease slightly to approximately 1.4 grams per kilogram per day in well-trained individuals because of a greater efficiency in dietary nitrogen utilization. So I skipped a part that read that bodybuilders, so people who are training for muscle growth, want to intake 1.6 to 1.7 grams per kilogram to remain in a non-negative nitrogen balance. So bodybuilders would need a lot of protein to support their training. But like I just read, for well-trained individuals, so experienced lifters, would probably only need 1.4 grams per kilogram per day because they're more efficient at utilizing that protein. So overall, the main topic for this video, the main conclusions for this video are that to make sure you're consuming enough protein, for beginners, probably 1 gram per kilogram of body weight will be sufficient. If you're really training hard and you're in the gym often and frequently and need to recover, maybe go up to 1.2, 1.3 grams per kilogram. And if you're an all-out bodybuilder, I get up to 1.6 or 1.7 grams per kilogram. But overall, make sure you're consuming enough protein. Don't worry too much if you don't have a protein shake right after the gym. You're not going to lose all the benefits of your training that day. But yeah, train hard, eat a diet that's rich in protein so that you can recover and increase your muscle hypertrophy overall. Thanks for watching, everybody. This is a fun video for me to do, and I hope you come back next week for my next video. See you then.